Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You are in the Prog Corner, and today we're going to be delving into the discography of the one and only Alan Parsons Project. Yeah, they're the butt of jokes from everybody from Mike Myers and Austin Powers on down. But are they really just sissy prog? Is there more to their music than just, the soft balladry that you find on a lot of these records? I say yes. I'm a fan. I do love them. And today we're going to be ranking all 11 albums from the Alan Parsons Project. Alan Parsons, obviously the mastermind behind it, was born December 20th, 1948 in London. He began his career as a tape duplicator at EMI, and he had been hearing all kinds of really interesting Beatles music from his job there. So in 1967, at the tender age of 18, he walks into Abbey Road Studios and he talks himself into a job as an assistant engineer, where he helped out with the Get Back sessions, Abbey Road, Let It Be, the first couple Wings albums, Wildlife and Red Rose Speedway. He worked with Al Stewart, The Year of the Cat. He worked with Blackfield, Steven Wilson on their latest album. But, we know him primarily as the guy that engineered Dark Side of the Moon, as well as the first couple Ambrosia albums. But, Dark Side of the Moon is where everybody started really standing up and taking notice of this guy. While he was at Abbey Road, he met some cat named Eric Wolfson, who was working on some concept album about Edgar Allan Poe. He was a session musician, just, laying down keyboards for various people. So they struck up a friendship that lasted a long, long time. Eric became Alan Parsons' manager for his production work, and that, of course, morphed into something a little bit more as they decided that they were going to work on that Edgar Allan Poe thing and put it out as an album. And that's where the whole thing started. We are not going to be looking at Freudiana, the 1990 release that was supposed to be the 11th Alan Parsons Project album. It turned into more of an Eric Wolfson thing. And we're not going to be looking at the Alan Parsons solo albums, Try Anything Once from 1993, On Air from 96, The Time Machine from 99, A Valid Path from 2004. And he's put out a couple of pretty good records here in the last few years. In 2019, The Secret, and last year he put out From a New World. They were decent records, nice little records. No one's going to confuse them with the Alan Parsons Project records, which just had an absolute bevy, just an incredible lineup of vocalists, man. Every song seemed to have a different singer. I'm going to go through all the singers that they used on their 11 albums, because they did put out the Sicilian Defense later on. So I'm including that. Lenny Zacatec is probably the most famous guy. He was from an R&B funk band called Gonzalez. Chris Rainbow, R.I.P. He sang on a bunch of tracks. He cut his bones with John Anderson. Later on was with Camel. Arthur Brown, the crazy Arthur Brown, sings on the first album. Terry Sylvester from the Hollies. John Miles, who had that big 1976 hit Music. Colin Blunstone from the Zombies. Jeff Barradale from Vitamin C, who was also went on to become Arctic Monkeys manager. Gary Brooker from Procol Harum. Graham Dye, who was in that band The Scarlet Party with David Gilmour's brother Mark. Elmer Gantry, if you remember him from the Velvet Opera. Guy named Dave Terry, he calls himself Elmer Gantry though. Claire Torrey, you know her from The Great Gig in the Sky. Leslie Duncan co-wrote Love Song with Elton John. Dave Townsend, who is a songwriter for Cliff Richard. Dean Ford, who was part of Marmalade. Jack Harris, who's a pretty good solo artist. Alan Clark, also from the Hollies. Steve Harley from the Cockney Rejects. Peter Straker, who was on London's production of Hair. And Leonard Whiting. who was Romeo in Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. And of course, the great Eric Wolfson himself did a bunch of singing on later records. But here we go, man. Here are the 11 Alan Parsons Project albums, and I'm ranking them from worst to first. And at number 11, no big shocker, it's the Sicilian Defense. This thing was finally released like in 2014, but they recorded it in 1979. It's all instrumental. They're basically sketches. These are demos. The storyline goes that after they completed Pyramid, their third album, their second for Arista, they still owed them 2 more albums before they could renegotiate. So they gave them Eve and they gave them this thing. Here you go. Here are your 2 albums. Well, they accepted Eve. They obviously put the big shelf on the Sicilian Defense, but it was good enough for them to get a new contract. It's, the Sicilian Defense is a reference to chess, and obviously this was a chess move by Eric and Alan to try to, put some leverage on Arista to get a new deal. It's not great. It's really not. At number 10, it's Vulture Culture from 1984. This was their 8th album. Hit number 46 in the US, number 40 in the UK, and you've got, all the regular members are here, but just stuff wasn't really working that well. Ammonia Avenue is very similar to this album, but these songs just aren't as good. You've got Eric Wolfson singing on Separate Lives and Sooner or Later and The Same Old Sun. You got Chris Rainbow singing Days Are Numbered. I like that song. Lenny Zakatek sings the title track. Colin Blunstone sings Somebody Out There. But overall, this was just kind of a disappointing record. Right in the heart of the new wave era, and it really suffered from that, and the production's not great. At number 9, it's the predecessor. Ammonia Avenue. Apparently, the songs on Ammonia Avenue and Vulture Culture were recorded at the same time, but the better songs ended up on Ammonia Avenue. Eric Wolfson sings 4 songs on this album. Primetime was the hit. Most people remember that song. One Good Reason. Don't Answer Me is a good track. He sings the title track, Ammonia Avenue. Lenny Zakatek sings Let Me Go Home. And You Don't Believe, I like that. Chris Rainbow sings Since the Last Goodbye. Colin Blunstone, Dancing on a High Wire. That's a good track. This one did pretty good. It hit number 15 in the US and number 24 in the UK. It's decent. I don't love it. Actually, all the rest of these albums I actually really, really do like. At number 8, it's their 4th album, Eve, from 1979. This one is not well regarded by a lot of Alan Parsons fans, and I think it got a bum rap primarily because you had Claire Torrey and Leslie Duncan singing on this thing. People, I guess, weren't really willing to put up with female vocalists on an Alan Parsons Project album, but they should have, because this album's actually not bad at all. You Lie Down with Dogs and Damned If You Do, 2 great songs. Lenny sings, Dave Townsend sings You Won't Be There. That's a good track. Chris Rainbow probably sings the best song on this album, Wind Me Up. I really like it. And the 2 songs that the girls sing are good too. Don't Hold Back with Claire and If I Could Change Your Mind with Leslie Duncan singing. Nice stuff. This album actually hit number 13 in the US, number 74 in the UK. At number 7, probably their most underrated album, and I'm talking about 1985 Stereotomy. I really like this one. I don't think it gets any credit at all. It's got a real cool vibe. I don't think this one even charted in the UK, but it hit number 43 in the US. There's no Lenny Zakatek on this album for some reason, and for some people, that's a good thing. Some people may not love his voice. I like it. I think it works, getting that kind of R&B flavor into prog light, kind of a cool thing. You've got Eric Wolfson singing the title track here. John Miles sings In the Real World. That's really cool. And also there's a Stereotomy 2. He sings that. Chris Rainbow sings the second song, Bejolise, which is really nice. Gary Brooker from Procol Harum sings Limelight. And a guy named Graham Dye sings Light of the World. Very cool record, very underrated record, very atmospheric record. I like it. I really do. At number 6, another one that really doesn't get enough credit. It's 1987's Gaudi, the 10th album. This is about the great architect. If you've ever been to Barcelona, you know who I'm talking about here. There's no David Patton on bass here. He was on tour with Elton John. So you've got Laurie Cottle playing bass on here. This album hit number 57 in the US, number 66 in the UK. You know, it was the end of the 80s, and I guess the Alan Parsons Project had kind of run their course, but this is a good album, man. Eric Wolfson sings Closer to Heaven. Paseo de Gracia is a really good song. John Miles sings La Sagrada Familia, the opening track, which is really cool. Opens up with some, interesting time signatures and whatnot. Lenny Zakatek sings Too Late. Chris Rainbow's on here singing backup. Gaudi's actually a really, really good, really underrated album. But now I'm getting into the top 5, and actually all 5 of these are fantastic records. At number 5, we're going with their 6th album, 1982's Eye in the Sky. Boy, I like this thing. Opens with Cirrus, and if you're a basketball fan, you certainly remember Michael Jordan running onto the court in the Chicago arena to the strains of the Alan Parsons Project. Morphs into the title track, which Eric Wolfson sings. I think that was like his first actual lead vocal. And what a great first lead vocal, man. Great song. Chris Rainbow sings on Gemini. Lenny Zakatek sings You're Gonna Get Your Fingers Burned and Step by Step. Colin Blunstone sings Old and Wise, which I really like. Elmer Gantry sings Psychobabble. That's a cool song. This album hit number 7 in the US, number 27 in the UK, and even though Alan Parsons had been nominated for like 14 Grammys, he finally won one like in 2019 for the 35th anniversary reissue of this album. Congratulations on finally winning a Grammy. Ridiculous. At number 4. Let's go to their 3rd album in 1978, and it's Pyramid, and I really like this one a lot. You've got the classic line of Alan Parsons, Eric Wolfson, Ian Barnson, R.I.P. Ian played guitar on every single Alan Parsons Project album. Just an amazing talent. Dave Patton on bass, Stuart Elliott on drums. He played drums on all their albums except the first 2. And you got Duncan McKay on this one. He was also on iRobot. What an amazingly talented keyboard player he is. Colin Blunstone sings The Eagle Will Rise Again. I love it. Lenny Zakatek sings One More River. You got Dean Ford on here taking a turn on lead vocals. Can't Take It With You. That's a cool song. John Miles sings Shadow of a Lonely Man. I really like it. This album only hit 49 in the US, so it didn't really get the kind of attention it deserved, but I really liked it a lot. At number 3, it's their 5th album, The Turn of a Friendly Card from 1980. Boy, oh boy, I do like this one a bunch. That Andrew Powell orchestration is just fantastic throughout this. He needs to be mentioned. His great orchestral work, his arranging and stuff, just a big part of the Alan Parsons Project sound. Lenny Zakatek sings The Games People Play, one of the most famous Alan Parsons Project songs. Chris Rainbow sings all over the Turn of a Friendly Card suite, except for the time section that Eric Wolfson sings. And Elmer Gantry sings on Maybe a Price to Pay. I like that a lot. This album hit number 13 in the US, number 38 in the UK, and it is outstanding, man. If people say, yeah, Alan Parsons isn't prog, make them listen to that record. They might have a change of heart. At number 2, it's the debut album from 1976, The Tales of Mystery and Imagination, the album that got it all started. This was the only one not on Arista. This was on United Artists. And I guess it did good enough to get them signed to Arista. Hit number 38 in the US, number 56 in the UK. And you've got members of Ambrosia here. You've got David Pack, Christopher North, Joe Puerta, Burley Drummond. All 4 of them appear on this album. As well as the great Ian Barnson, of course. Francis Monkman from Curved Air makes an appearance. These songs are good, man. Really good stuff. The Telltale Heart, A Dream Within a Dream, and of course the great suite that ends the whole thing, The Fall of the House of Usher. You've got Leonard Whiting, Arthur Brown, Jack Harris, John Miles, and Terry Sylvester all singing on this album. Just a phenomenal album. And if you would have told me a week ago that I had another album ranked higher than it, I would have told you you're a liar. But here we go, man. At number 1, it's I, Robot, the sophomore album from 1977, the first album on Arista. This one hit number 9 in the US, number 26 in the UK. Obviously, it's about the Isaac Asimov story about, robots taking over the world, just destroying everything. And this one had a totally different sound than the first album. You've got a whole lot more synthesizers going on here, and kind of the birth of the Alan Parsons Project sound is found right here. Lenny Zakatic sings I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You. Peter Straker sings Some Other Time. Alan Clark sings Breakdown. Dave Townsend sings Don't Let It Show. And Steve Harley sings The Voice. Those are just some amazing tracks. I love iRobot. Overall, it is their best album. It is their proggiest album. Overall, I just think it is just a dynamite example of how pop music and prog can coexist in a peaceful and harmonious and interesting way. I really do enjoy the Alan Parsons Project quite a bit, and I hope this has inspired you maybe to go back and give a re-listen to the discography. It's actually really, really good with a lot of great stuff in there. Anyway, later this week, I am going to be doing, what am I doing this week? I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to be reviewing the new Agusa album. Real solid instrumental prog rock from Sweden. And then I haven't done a vinyl haul video in a while. And I got a stack here, man. Ugh. This is like half of it. So I got a stack of vinyl I need to tell you guys about. I haven't done one of those videos in a while. They're always a lot of fun. And I'm just kicking my tripod like I'm an animal here with my big old woody feet. Anyway, I love you guys. Peace in the Middle East. Free Tibet. And God save the king. Save that king. Save King Charles III. That boy needs your saving. He absolutely does. Thank you to all my peeps, all 5,700 and whatever of you. Thank you again. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.